Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of All Things Real Estate. As always, I'm your host, Kyle Seyboth with Century 21. Like we said recently, we have moved over. Keller Williams, now Century 21. And again, with me today, I have another guest, and what we're trying to do is bring in other real estate professionals on the show as we have done in the past. And today we have none other than Mickey Silva, and Mickey is an agent as well. He's with my team. He's at Century 21. He's been an agent with me for about a year now, a little over a year. And Mickey does a really nice job. And the reason I wanted to have him on today is because I think Mickey can explain how you go from never being an agent to being a successful agent in under 12 months. And I think that's what we want to talk about, what things that help drive him to help his clients really be successful in buying and selling. So with that, Mickey, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome.
You didn't say very special guest.
No, he is a special guest, but not a very special guest.
Okay. Oh, just a special guest.
We've
All right.
had very special guests.
Okay.
Maybe
Next time I'll be a very special guest.
You're not there yet.
Okay, not there yet. Fair enough.
So Mickey, you were at Keller Williams.
Yes.
And you came over to Century 21. Mm-hmm. When did you get licensed?
I got licensed last August.
So about a year ago.
So it's a year, yeah.
So you've been licensed for a year.
Licensed for a year.
What did you do? So a lot of people always, when they get licensed, right, they're nervous, right? So one of the biggest things that happens is someone gets licensed and they're nervous to take that plunge. They say, great, I have my real estate license, but now I'm not really sure what to do because I make X amount at my job. I can't give that up. So you got licensed in August, and then what did that look like from August till September of 2020?
So when I first started out, I started out with you, and I said, Kyle, give me as many open houses as you can. And that's how I started. So, and I was asking, I think, for 6 a weekend. So I would work my full-time job, and on the weekend, I would do 6 open houses, like back to back to back on Saturday, back to back on Sunday. And I did that for about 6 or 7 months. And all the while I was doing that, I was also looking for myself and for my sister. So I would look at maybe 4 or 5 other properties that I would actually set up an I would set up an appointment for to go and look at. So what that got me, it got me out in front of people on the weekend. Meeting new people, meeting clients, talking about properties. And, because I was looking for myself, I was actually learning about value in that process.
Yeah, I think you learned something else there that I don't know if you realize, but number one, you worked the open house circuit for a while, right? So you learned how to deal with people, whether they had agents, they didn't have agents, whether you were able to sell a house or you weren't able to sell a house. You got in front of a lot of people and got on the stage. But I think more importantly, you learned how to be an agent by helping yourself find a house.
Correct.
You learned how to say, okay, I want to see 123 Main Street. How do I set up an appointment? What does that look like? How do I deal with the other agent? How do I go through the process of doing an inspection? How do I go through the process of asking for different things on the inspection? How do the agents interact with each other on the showings, right? So being a buyer and being an agent are 2 different things, right? When you're a buyer, you're there to purchase the property. Right? So you're there as an actual customer, consumer of the property. When you're an agent, right? So when you're an agent, you're there to provide a service. So you're a facilitator. So you kind of wore 2 hats there. You were able to say, in the buyer hat, I'm looking at this from a value standpoint. In the other hat, on the professional side, hey, how does this agent show a house?
Right.
Oh,
so
yeah. You're learning from going on appointments for your own stuff, how do people do the business? Where I think a lot of people fail to learn that is they don't really get in front of enough people. They don't have that ability to practice on themselves, right? So if you make an error on yourself, it's not a big deal.
I made a lot.
Right, and you can compensate for it.
Sure.
I think those are 2 important things. And I would say to you, because you're more new at this than I am, if you were to talk to a new agent today, would you advise them to follow the same script that you followed to get in the game?
The exact same. So, I was working full-time in finance, as you know. And looking for myself, and I was looking for my sister too. At the same time, she was also looking. She was looking in Mass. I was looking in Rhode Island, so I got to see
both sides,
and how it works in both states. And so by looking and handling those first two transactions from start to finish, from setting up showings to the inspection to everything, I learned the how to do a deal soup to nuts from start to finish, so that when I quit my full-time job, I had at least done those transactions and knew how to get from A to B. So when I was actually out working with new clients, I had some experience. I knew how to get to the closing.
You knew how
table.
to get from A to B.
Right.
Now, you started in August. How many transactions or how many people did you help last year either purchase or sell?
So 0.
So you did 0 in 2019.
0 in 2019.
And then this year, what are we looking like for 2020?
We're looking to do about 30 to 35 transactions by the end of the year.
By the end of this year.
Right.
It's pretty good.
And then, I want to be able to at least triple that in 2021.
That's pretty good.
Setting up the infrastructure to be able to handle that
deal
load.
Right, and so that's a big move. So for somebody who did 0 to 30, right, and you've kind of only known one way, you've kind of known the way I've done it,
right,
and you've taken that and you've just followed it, essentially, and now you're at a point where if you can do, most agents, right, most agents do 8 to 10?
Sure.
8 to 10?
Sure.
So I would say 30. My first year I did 7.
Yeah.
So if you do 30 in year 1, that's a big number. Right,
yeah.
That's a huge number. That's
right.
awesome.
But I mean, I learned from you.
Right.
I ask a lot of questions.
No, you did. You
not only from you, from other agents.
Right.
And I'm not afraid.
Right.
I'm not afraid to say, hey, does this system work?
Right.
What, how would you approach this scenario? I'm not afraid to ask questions.
Right. And I think the one thing that I like that you've done really well is you're going to start to build a culture within the organization. So when you came over to Century 21. I'm really good at doing certain things, but I only have so much capacity.
Right.
So what we said is, hey, Mickey, why don't you handle the cultural side of the firm, right? And you start to build a culture that people want to be around.
Right.
People want to be here. They want to be around it. We want to build this thing up and really catapult it to the next level. I think right now we have, 40 agents right now?
Yeah, wow.
35, 40 agents.
Yeah.
And we opened in July, so from July 15th, today's September 9th.
Fast.
So we've got 40 agents in a month and a half, which is pretty good. We're still bringing more people in, and I like to help the new agent because I think the new agent is the best one for me to work with because you guys are coming from 0. You guys have no idea, haven't done anything, started from scratch, started from 0, and to get you from 0 to 30 is great because then I can easily get you from 30 to 90.
Right.
Then it's a function of we can have fun with it and we can help educate the public and do more value-adding things to get you from 30 to 90. So with that, do you work with mostly buyers, mostly sellers, commercial, residential? Like, what do you do?
So mostly buyers and mostly residential right now. So I think it's the easiest way to start out in this business.
Correct.
I think just going out trying to get seller clients and trying to be on the sell side right out of the gate.
It's a miss.
Yeah, it's
a big miss because no one knows who you are.
Right. You have no credibility whatsoever.
Why would they list a house with you? You have no credibility.
Right, correct.
You don't even have one sign in the ground.
Right.
So what you've done is you've understood that and you said, hey, look, let me focus on a part of the business I can help people with. Buyers are 50% of every transaction.
Right.
So at the end of the day, there's a buyer, there's a seller, and there's a house. If you can be one side of that transaction, it's just as good. Whether you're on the list side or the buyer side, it really doesn't matter. Right? It really is somewhat irrelevant on what side you're on. I think you do what qualities would you say that you bring to your clients that help differentiate your service, and what do you think clients look for in an agent? Because I think this is important. If I'm looking for an agent, I'm a new buyer, I'm a new seller, what do I look for? Besides credibility, we know that.
Responsiveness.
Yes.
I think responsiveness is huge. If there was a single, attribute that people look for, or what I think they look for in an agent, is somebody that they can get on the phone or is going to respond to a text quickly.
Now, when you say responsiveness, right? I think it's important you explain, I'm Joe Buyer. I want to see a house. I text you today at 9 a.m. You should respond to them by
9:01.
Yes, correct.
They text you at 9 a.m. If you can't get them at 9 a.m., you get them at 9:01.
Here's the part that people don't understand, and here's where buyers get somewhat frustrated is, if I text Mickey at 9 and Mickey can't get back to me till 12, what do you think happens? That buyer does what?
They need answers.
But what do you think? What does a buyer do?
They start looking elsewhere.
They go somewhere else.
That's right.
Buyers, right? As a buyer, you don't have a ton of loyalty to the agent, because
No.
at the end of the day, you need someone who responds. You need someone who's knowledgeable. You need someone who's trustworthy. You need someone who understands the game, and you need someone who can get them in the properties fast. So that's why what we really teach is responsiveness. We focus on getting back to people right away, making sure you pick the phone up. If you're unavailable, right, you can't be available 24 hours. Some people can't. I can. You may not be able to. You may be able to.
Before I go to sleep, I'll respond to a text.
Correct. If you're not, I think it's important that you help your clients understand the time. Like, you got to set expectations, right? So if you work with a lot of clients, I think you need to set an expectation like, hey, between 8 and 9, I'm unavailable. Between 9 and 12, free reign, right? I think that's important, wouldn't you say?
But I don't do that. I make myself available.
You do.
From 6 to 12 at night.
Correct. But let's say someone is a mother or whatever, and they have to feed the child.
Sure, that's different.
Right?
It's
So
a different scenario.
you got to find that situation where you can, because if you don't set that expectation, for the client, you can't expect the client to stick around because you haven't set a precedent of when you're available.
Right.
You're basically just giving them no response, no answers, and they're sitting there in limbo. And I think that's one of the things that I think is super frustrating. Question for you on the market outlook. 2020, in my opinion, what's your opinion of 2020?
I don't think it's a complete wash. I think that, the market has been high. It's been super competitive in the 300,000 and below price point. I don't see that changing for a little while. I think just because it's competitive doesn't mean that you can't get something under contract. Just because there's 50 groups looking at a house doesn't mean that you can't get it, but it does mean you're going to overpay for it.
Yes, you are. You're definitely going to overpay. I hate this market. I think it's a terrible market. I think it's a market filled with fool's gold. I think we've got a lot of properties that are going for values that are too high. I think we have a lot of buyers that are stretching themselves on things that are too high, and the payments are going to be too high. I think it's a super tight inventory where I don't see inventory increasing anytime soon. And to me, it's been probably the hardest year I've ever had in real estate, being able to keep my clients satisfied, because there's just not enough. I can't make up houses. So I can't make up a house that people want. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work like that.
Right.
So at the end of the day, the focus there is on how can I continue to work with my client, but satisfy them and get them what they're looking for.
Right.
I think 2020 has been abysmal. I think it's been, it's okay, but I think it's somewhat abysmal.
I think the way my view on this subject is, if a buyer says they want the house, I can tell them how they can get it.
Right.
And it is unfortunate. I think that there are a few scenarios where I know that the value is not there.
Right.
But this is the house that they want. So I'm conflicted. I say, listen, this is what it's going to take to get this under contract.
Right.
And I hear you, and parents especially. Parents have a completely different view on value.
Total different view. They still think it's 2009.
Right.
They're like, let's go 20 grand under.
Nope, not going to happen.
And I let this buyer do that a couple times, so they see that we're not even close. You
have to.
You got to let them say, you got to let them put, okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's do it. 4 times.
You have to feel it.
You got to feel it.
They have to feel it.
You have to feel that disappointment of not getting
it. But even when they've lost bid after bid, when they get to the point where, like, this house, 123 Main Street, is the house I want, I have to tell them flat out, if you want this house, we can get it.
But you got to pay.
You got to pay for it.
You got to pay the piper.
Right.
And you're not just paying you're not just paying $10,000 over. You may be paying 40, 50, 60,000.
You may put 50 in and not get it.
Exactly. You may put that much up and not get it. Now, what I say to my clients is, at the end of the day, if you decide on this house and you get this house and you tell me you want to sell in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm telling you you're not going to be able to. Because what happens is you're going to be underwater. We're at the peak. We've hit an absolute peak in what the valuation is on the property. So when you hit a peak, there's only one way to go. That way is down.
Right.
And the downtrend, in my opinion, will start in the next 18 to 24 months. So all these buyers that are buying right now either have to have the stick-to-itiveness to battle through the next downturn and be able to hold it, or say hello to a short sale.
Right.
Because that's really the only option. I think, and it's unfortunate, but I think at the end of the day, we're really in that predicament right now. We're in a predicament where most folks don't understand what I'm paying, I'll never get back.
So how similar do you think this market is to 2006?
Similar with values, dissimilar with the fact of the reason for where we are. The reason we were in 2006 was because of bad loans. We were writing loans for people who can't afford them.
Right.
We're not writing loans for people
So value was roughly the same.
Value's the same. Value's higher.
But I have no idea what interest rates were back then. But
Probably
that has
sixes.
to be a factor. Oh, okay. So way higher.
So rates were much higher.
Yeah.
Values right now are much higher. Supply was lower than I've ever seen. I have never, ever seen supply the way it is right now. Where you're having 34, that's insane. 30, 40, 50 people looking at one house. What does that say to me? That says that next year, we're probably looking at the best real estate market we'll ever have.
I keep saying that. Yeah. Do you think it's because supply is going to go up, or that there will be the buyer pool will shrink?
Demand stays the same.
Okay.
Supply increases. You're going to have
How
2
and
years
why?
of supply because we missed this whole year. This year was a wash. Only people that sold this year had to sell. People that wanted to sell didn't sell.
So you think the spring market's just going to
No
explode?
foreclosures. Only people that sold had to sell. School was all screwed up.
Right.
COVID messed up everyone in the bar and restaurant industry, entertainment and hospitality. We lost, in my opinion, 70% of inventory because people didn't know what was going on. Whoever wins the election, in my opinion, whoever wins that election, whether it's the incumbent or whether it's the new gentleman, we will have such a tailwind towards 2021 that this market's going to be insane. So what I would say is buckle up, because it's going to be complete chaos. You're going to see inventory coming on the market that I got people now calling me for next year already. I looked at 3 houses yesterday ready to sell next year.
And they're not interested at all in taking advantage of this market?
Nope. They want to wait till next year. I want to wait till the election. I want to see what happens.
Interesting.
So with that, I think Mickey, this is a great conversation. We're coming to the end of the segment, but I think this was great. We'd love to have you on again. We appreciate you coming on.
Only when I'm a very special guest.
You may be. If you close 35 transactions, you will become
I will be a very special
you will become
guest.
a very
Okay, good.
special guest. But guys, with that, we want to conclude this episode of All Things Real Estate. As always, we really appreciate you watching, and we hope we add value to everyone's day. Everyone have a beautiful day.